The White House is selling this as a huge deal. They are very much trying to cash in on this as nothing but a positive news story. We have just heard in the last few minutes that President Trump is now himself at Andrews Air Force Base. He is there apparently with his wife Melania, the First Lady, and also the Vice President as well. So that just shows you just how big a deal that the White House thinks this is, that they have got those three people to Andrews Air Force Base in neighbouring Maryland in the middle of the night to welcome these three prisoners. The White House selling this as nothing but very positive, especially after all the negative criticism it got from withdrawing from the Iran nuclear deal. This is President Trump selling himself as the master negotiator for having secured these releases, seemingly without giving back anything in return. This is President Trump, the showman, putting on this big welcome home return. And this is President Trump, the TV star, who's very much playing this for maximum publicity and maximum ratings.
And John, how important would you say this is for US-North Korean relations and, of course, that big meeting coming up between the North Korean leader and President Donald Trump?
Well, it seems like a long time ago, doesn't it, that President Trump was saying that about fire and fury, about calling Kim Jong-un Little Rocket Man. That does seem like a long time ago. Relations seem to have improved drastically since then. But America very keen to make sure that the world knows that they haven't eased up on North Korea. All of the sanctions still remain in place. This is this is the North Korean leader on the world stage, very much selling himself as being a nice guy, as doing something positive ahead of this meeting. But the Secretary of State will be arriving back in the country with these three freed prisoners, but also a date, a time and a location for this very important meeting between the two leaders. So finally, then, all eyes will turn to that meeting in the coming weeks that we think will be taking place in Singapore, and we'll need to see whether there is any lasting peace can be achieved on the Korean Peninsula.
And we're just looking at live pictures right now. And remind us, John, who were these freed Americans?
Well, these were three, they're all naturalised US citizens, all of Korean descent. Now, they were captured at different times. The first, let me just give you some names. The first, Kim Dong-chul, was captured in 2015. He was given 10 years hard labour, in theory, for spying. Now, of course, plenty of people say that charge was completely fictitious, that he was just there trying to do some good. But, of course, you know, it's very difficult to know what goes on within North Korea. So he was given 10 years hard labour back in 2015. The other two, Tony Kim and Kim Hak-song, were both arrested and imprisoned after President Trump took office. They were arrested in 2017. Tony Kim arrested for espionage. Kim Hak-song arrested for so-called hostile acts. Again, nobody quite sure if there's any truth to this at all. It's very much thought that they weren't doing anything wrong. They were there primarily to try and do some good in the country. But yes, all three of them have been released, very much being seen as a symbol of goodwill ahead of this meeting between the two leaders, and very much this huge welcome home ceremony here in the middle of the night in Washington, and President Trump doing all he can to cash in on the good publicity.
John, thank you so much for that update. That was John Bevir for us in Washington.